I think the war that is going on in Iran is far more important for both China and America. And I believe the reason behind it is also AI. This was supposed to happen, Iran war was supposed to happen, let's say, from a long time. It was in the list of the countries that America wanted to kind of influence from a long time, but AI has kind of lower the timeline, you can say. If they wanted to do it in 2030, now they would actually want to do it in 2026, and here is the reason behind why I think this is happening. So first of all, let's talk about America, right? America has been now releasing a really good model such as Fable 5 and GPT 5 and 6. GPT 5 and 6, I think they are now about 3 different models, right? So if you look for GPT 5 and 6 released by OpenAI, there are about 3 models that I think they have released. So first one is Soul, and then Terra, and then Luna, right? And these 3 models are basically the variants of Soul. I think is very good at cybersecurity, and then Terra and Luna are, you can say, the Flash version of the same model. And Fable 5 was also a really good model, and they have been trying to now release it again. Mythos have been a really good model for people to use, and for those who have used it, let's say for 3 or 4 days, they know that there was a clear difference in how Fable 5 thinks and how Opus 4.8 thinks. But I believe now what's happening is that intelligence services, let's say of America, they have realized that these models are not something that they would want to release, especially the Mythos and then GPT 5 and 6, because China can actually distill this model to create a better models. So there is this process called as distillation, and this distillation process is actually like officially known. This is not like anything that is not known in the public. Distillation process, I think I studied one of the research paper by Google DeepMind, and they also have a good videos on it. So if you want to learn about distillation process, search about Google DeepMind, you will find out a really good one. So it is basically a machine learning technique where a higher capable teacher AI model trains a smaller, faster student model to replicate its behavior and reasoning. And now the point is, like, you have to give it a prompt, and then you have to look at the output, and just based on that process you can actually create a children model, which is, let's say, maybe of the quality 10% lower than the parent model, but still can do very good. So that's why now when Mythos is actually at 92% or 93% of agentic capability to the coding, let's say, you can have a teacher model, and then you can have a student model in China, which is going to, let's say, be 10% lower than Mythos do, but can do actually very good. So that's why what Anthropic did is that Anthropic made it limited, in a sense that now if you ask Mythos or Fable 5 about how to create a good AI model, or if you ask it a bunch of questions about how to, let's say, do the research about AI, or how to improve the AI, or what is the machine learning, or maybe try to just build out any product that requires machine learning, it will move to Opus 4.8, and it will not answer you, basically. And the reason behind that is because China, I think Anthropic claimed that there were a lot of accounts that were created to access Fable 5, and they were able to create, I think, 25,000 fraudulent accounts and generate 28.8 million exchanges, basically. So this problem is actually far worse than people realize. Basically, it is like companies spent $100 million to create, now I think these days it is even $1 billion, right? So companies spent $1 billion to generate a model, and then you have another company in China who has just scrapped this model by giving it a bunch of prompts, looking at the outcome, and then is able to replicate and then create a student model and then sell it at a 10x lower cost. So the economies never match, right? These Chinese models that are getting created, maybe they haven't spent $1 billion to create it. DeepSeek was created, I think, out of like just $5 million initial investment. I'm not sure if it was created by the distillation process, but there is also, by the way, architecture innovation that is going on in China. So you can't really just say that China has just copy pasted everything. they have done a real innovation, and then deep research is now trying to make their cost lower than by 5x than whatever initially is, right? So basically it's not that small feat that China is trying to do. But let's go back to the topic, right? So now intelligence services of US, they know that they have to slow China down. They know that they can't stop China, but they have to slow China down, and the way they do that is by containing these models such as Fable 5. They would be rolling out probably in few months some kind of a RE citizen ID verification process, where even if you are from America, or maybe if you're not from America, you have to kind of verify yourself, the identity of yourself, so that they can know that who you are trying to access. And if you maybe try to do something such as replicating the Fable 5, they maybe can know that who you are and how you are trying to do it, and you can just mock it and fake 28,000 different accounts to call the Fable 5 to generate the lower version or the student version of Fable 5. So America is trying to contain it, but now I think what's actually going to happen is, this is my prediction by the way, I think China is already open source and America is going to eventually move towards open source, and OpenAI's main goal is actually to move towards the open source platform. So China will have models that work on their hardware, and then America will have the models that work on their hardware, but both of them will be open source. So this is not going to be the source of revenue, you can say, for America and for China. What's happening behind the scenes is far more important. Yes, for OpenAI they will be able to make, let's say, $1 trillion through OpenAI IPO, but America is a far bigger economy. It is how much, like at more than $20 trillion right now, and even their debt is also in trillions, right? So if you look at it, USA's debt is $39 trillion. So it is at 40 times the OpenAI IPO, even if it happens at $1 trillion. So America's problems are much bigger than OpenAI problems, and same thing for China as well. Even if, let's say, DeepSeek tomorrow is able to do $1 trillion IPO, the China's problem are much more than what the problems of the IPO or the DeepSeek is going to be. So these countries, they want to grow their economy, they want to contain their economy, they want to kind of be the superpower, let's say, and the way they do that is by talking about like a very big things, not just the intelligence of these models. They want to control the energy infrastructure, they would want to control the hardware infrastructure, and they would want to control the distribution. By the way, this is the lesson basically. If you think you can win just by having the software, you are not in the right game, because softwares can be replicated and software are increasingly becoming, let's say, uninvestable, you can say, because now you can replicate the software. Maybe today you can't, because like let's say there are very much limited models. These models are not able to think, and if you try to just replicate whatever Figma does, it will not actually be able to do it. But I mean, let's take a theoretical example where you have, let's say, can afford billion tokens, maybe it is able to do it. So software itself should never be a moat, because you can literally see all of these open source projects that earn money too, right? So the software has never been a moat. What's moat is the distribution. What's moat is how WhatsApp is actually, by the way, today you can go and replicate the WhatsApp maybe in 1 hour, but are you really going to be successful through just the WhatsApp software? No. What you need is the distribution, right? The same thing goes for Figma. Why Figma is actually this expensive is not because, let's say, you are able to draw some components on the UI. Maybe you are able to do that through mockup version 2, right? Figma is important because Figma has the distribution within the company. They understand what people want. Same thing goes for Facebook, right? Facebook has connections. The YouTube has content, right? And Google has a lot of data, the advertisement data. The cloud code, Anthropic now has a lot of developers who constantly use them, where they can themselves use the distillation process, where you generate a lot of tokens and then you are able to, let's say, solve some problem, and then Anthropic is somehow able to figure how to create a better model from that. And OpenAI is basically trying to be a consumer company, I believe. So the problem of America and China are much bigger than this. Let's go back to that topic, right? So what's going to happen is that China is going to play the hardware war, and then America is going to play the energy war. So what's going to happen is that China is going to become more and more intelligent at how to do the manufacturing of hardware. They will try to release more and more open source models, where these open source models runs better on their infrastructure, their hardware. So you buy it through their companies, right? And then America is going to, let's say, supply you the energy for that. And that is where Iran comes in. America knows that they have lost the hardware world. They will never be able to compete America. America will never be able to compete China at what they are doing right now. China has Taiwan. Taiwan has TSMC. TSMC is the biggest manufacturer or producer of these chips, right? So if you look at TSMC right now, it is at the 90%. It manufactures 90% of the world's advanced microchips. Yes, I mean, software is maybe the patent of American companies, but then still the manufacturing process is actually solved within Taiwan, which basically is going to be or is already the part of China. And I mean, I don't want to get into that part, but basically what I'm trying to say is that China has solved the hardware part. China now also wants to solve the energy part, because if China wants to, let's say, be the AI superpower, they do have the hardware, let's say they do have a very good software, but they don't have energy, they don't have trade. If they want to sell Chinese let's say hardware to some European company or to India or to America itself, right, they need a trade for that, right? And those trade is currently dominated by America, because all of the trade currently happens in dollar. So even if China wins, America wins by default, because China will have to do the default trade on dollar. And then what happens, let's say when India buys $100 billion of GPUs from China, first of all, they will buy it in dollars. So America by default gets some, let's say, benefit out of it. The second thing that will happen is that now America wants to control Iran supply of energy, also of Middle East, also of their own North American empire they have, because India will need GPUs. India will need energy to run these GPUs, right? And even China themselves will need energy to run these GPUs. Iran, I think China currently imports like about 1 to 2 million of barrels a day of oil from Iran. So also I think they are the 90% of oil importers from Iran. So you can literally see the kind of energy, the demand that China will need from Iran and from Middle East, right, to be able to fulfill their dream of being the AI superpower. So America is going to try to contain the energy infrastructure, and America is going to try to maintain the trade infrastructure, and America is going to try to maintain the financial infrastructure, so that China, even if they win in the hardware war, they are not able to be the superpower within the world, unless, let's say, they are able to change the narrative, unless they are able to change the worldview, which I'm not sure when will happen, how it will happen. But yeah, that's the whole process basically behind why America and China currently are fighting, and why I think Iran is going to play the far more important role in this AI game that is going on. Now, one thing that we can learn from this too, China has taught us a very good lesson, which is that you can just do the copy paste. Basically, maybe they have made out the initial version of DeepSeek or some other models through doing the distillation process of Mythos, or, well, Mythos was not there, but let's say Opus or GPT models, right? But at the end of the day, if you're not able to innovate, you will not be able to, let's say, succeed in the market, right? So what I think we can do ourselves is that, first of all, this AI thing is not going away. It is just about who is going to run it. And what I would try to do today is like try to figure out one idea where you can use the AI to do the same kind of a distillation process that China does, right? Which is basically give it the prompt, look at the response, and then give it the prompt, look at the response. It can be generating images. It can be trying to, let's say, use agents to do the visa process of America, right? Or trying to use agents to sell the property in Dubai or something like that, right? So what's going to happen is that you can use this distillation process of basically trying to so basically what I will try to do today is, just like China uses GPT 5.6 or some other models to let's say give it the prompt and then give it the input and then return the response in the same way. What I will try to do today is that I will ask cloud to solve some very specific problem today, which can be that using agents to crawl the internet to figure out how to buy the best properties in Dubai, right? Now you know, let's say after 100 prompts or 1000 prompts, that how to do it, and you are going to have the data which others don't have, which is the positive data and then the negative data, and this is going to be the human collected data. Even today Tesla kind of admits that 50% is basically the evals, and then the rest of it is the other things, right? So I think this was a tweet by one of their staff software engineers, which basically says that 50% of the ML projects are actually evals, and then 40% of are the data cleansing, and 8% are integration. So what you can try to do is you can try to today create a golden data set of your specific use case of maybe finding out the best property in Dubai, and then create this golden data set where there are positives and then negatives. Positives are going to be where your agent is successfully able to tell you which properties to buy, and then negative is where agents is not able to figure out the best property, but it figures out the worst property. Now you put it as a negative use case, right? And then you can actually use that to train your model to find out how it becomes very good at finding out the best properties. Now agents will need to crawl the internet, so it becomes good at that. Agent will need to remember the property prices, so it gets good at that. Agent need to understand the local culture of Dubai. Maybe it has to do with clubs, maybe it has to do with the beaches or something, right? So it understands and build that knowledge, and that is where I think the next thing is going to be. So AI is going to AI is here to stay. AI will probably not get much better unless there is a really big innovation like what I think Chapa, I think that's what they call it, right? So the former director at AI of Meta, he's trying to create a new architecture of a new architecture or new model of AI. The currently is Transformer, and he's trying to create Japa, which basically is the AI framework. So it is basically pioneered by Meta and Yan. Yan is now having it doing it in his own company, and he has raised billions of dollars too. So he's designing to help machines build internal and common sense models of how the world works. But he's trying to say is that these models don't have the sense of how the world works right now, so he's planning on actually building the models that has a sense of the merge of this world. You can try to think of it like this, that right now you have to use these agentic tools to let agent crawl and then figure out what the data is, right? But what if, let's say, it automatically have access to you, and it is able to feel what you are doing, it is able to look at your thoughts of what you are doing, right? So all of those things, and not only it is able to, let's say, predict everything that is going on in our brain, just like how the transformer architecture works, but I think it's going to try to solve this in a different way. Well, that is a topic about the different day. So but at the end of the day, what I'm trying to tell you is that you can try to solve a very specific problem. Try to learn from 11 labs. 11 labs basically did the same thing, where their agents basically, first of all, they started from the conversation models, right, where their models will have some voice, let's say, of the 10 different people. 11 labs try to do the same thing, which is basically they started with, I think, 10 different voices, and then now they have scaled also to 11 agents, right? So, well, the future is good. AI is not going away, and this run war is going to play a far important role. So do watch it, and then hopefully everything gets solved. And by then you probably have the golden data set, and then you have solved this 50% of problem already, and then you have the idea, and then you can try to have maybe some startup. So yeah, that's, I think, how the world is going to look like. It's going to look very different than what we experience today. And I'm going to create more videos on evals, and I'm also going to create more videos on harness engineering. Harness engineering is basically how you're able to then use this 50% evals to create a good product. This is basically auto research by Andrej, or you can say Alpha Evolve by Google DeepMind. This is why I think Anthropic is currently worried. Anthropic knows that somewhere you are able to create the better model by just having a good model. You are able to somehow have the good data set and then have the bad data set, which basically can be interpreted, let's say, from your 100,000 engineers doing the coding, and then you're able to create a better model just by interpreting those distilled prompts, you can say. So I think that's why they are worried. So, well, we don't need to be worried. Let's try to learn what Alpha Evolve is. We're going to have a course on it follow me, subscribe me. I'm going to paste my Twitter account, so you can, if you want to have a chat, you can feel free to message me on Twitter, and comment down if you want me to talk on different topic, and then subscribe please. Thank you.